This week's video is sponsored by Case. Capture with confidence.
Well, good morning and welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the Lake District. So come down today, down to Ullswater direction, because it's one of those places that I pass all the time and I always pass it, I don't really call in. So I thought, you know, I haven't been down here for absolutely ages, so I thought I'd come down and see what we can find. But as you can see today, if I move round, there isn't a whole lot of light going on. If I just try and tilt you up a little bit, you'll see a bit better. Up here, there's not a great lot of light going on. So hopefully, as the day progresses, we get a bit more. Now, what we have got is weather moving in. So we've got bits of snow moving through. There's obviously beautiful little islands and everything to photograph. It just needs light, and it's so flat today, so it's going to be one of those days where we've got to kind of hunt around and maybe wait around quite a bit. Once we find some compositions to work with, it's definitely going to be a waiting game to see what happens with the light. But I'm kind of confident it's going to kind of break out a little. We're going to get some bits of light coming through. It's just going to be definitely a waiting game. So really looking forward to finding something to work with. Once I do, we'll get you back to the back of the camera and start to walk you through what I'm seeing there. So as you can see, I've kind of found a shot to work with using this boathouse here. Now, I'm not including the whole boathouse because it goes way back into the bank side and the lens simply isn't wide enough to do it. So with that in mind, what I'm going to do is kind of cut it off after the door. So I've got part of the boathouse with the pier leading into the scene. And then beyond, we've got this, we've got the mountain range behind leading up towards Kirkstone Pass at the bottom end there. Now what it really needs, and what I'm going to have to wait for and possibly move on until we actually get it later, is I've taken a test shot here, but what it actually needs is light somewhere. Actually, we either need light in the background or we need light in the foreground, or a mix of both to make it really work. Because at the minute it's flat and really flat. We've got no sort of directional light whatsoever. And it's so, the cloud's so thick, we're not even really getting that nice diffuse soft light. It's just really sort of boring. So in order to make this shot work, we're definitely going to have that bit of directional light to give the whole scene depth and a bit of dimension about it. But yeah, definitely worth coming back to if we do get light at some point today. At least I've found this composition to work with a little later. So I've found a couple of compositions down there, two that I've got to work with, and this is the kind of perfect opportunity. So when the light is flat and boring, I tend to use that time to walk around and have a look at an area and see what compositions I can actually find. And then I know where to go back to when the light actually changes. And it's a far better use of time, because you can all too well just turn up, look at a place and think there's nothing happening, there's no light. Well, use that time to your advantage. Use it to go and find compositions, something to work on when the light actually does come. Even if it's on a different day, you're coming back to a location that you already know, and you already know where those places are, so you can get to them fast and react to the light around you. So we do have a little bit of light now, so I want to kind of show you while it is there. I mean, it might get better, but I might as well show you now anyway. So I'll show you the back of the screen, what I'm looking at. What you'll see is a 4x3. And I'm cutting off the boathouse like I was telling you before there, because I can't get the whole thing in. But I think what I've got in actually works, because you've got it almost leading you into the frame, down that pier, and then beyond the pier you've got that spit of land sticking out, and then beyond that there's a little island with pine trees in it, And then beyond that again, you have the mountains in the background. And I think it works really, really well. Now, one thing I'm doing is using my case filters. I'm using kind of anywhere between a 6-stop and a 10-stop filter to slow the movement down on the water and smooth it out, because obviously we're not at the sea and there's no kind of waves as such to make nice foreground interest. So to me, it's just a distraction seeing all that shimmering motion in the front of the image. So I want to get rid of that as much as possible. So I'm putting a filter on. I'll start off with the 6-stop probably and see how that looks. Pop that on now. Now obviously I need to adjust my exposure. And if I bring that up, that's going to give me around about a 13-second exposure at that. So I'm focusing in on that bit of the jetty there, and then the light's just quite nice in the background now. I'm just going to grab that shot. So basically all it is waiting for that light to happen in the background, because without that there's no depth to the image at all. And that's what I've been kind of waiting around for. As I say, it might get better. Now, the thing I won't like is, I won't like the motion in the sky. So I'm going to have to take another shot to remove that motion in the sky at a faster shutter speed, to freeze the motion and to get the clouds kind of stationary, because there's not a huge amount of texture in the clouds anyway. So if I smooth that all out with the long exposure, it's just going to look a bit flat and boring. So I'm going to have to take 2 shots, one for the water, one for the rest, and then blend them in post. But I think it should work, and hopefully if I get some decent light at some point today, it'll turn out well. And if I do, here's that shot. So with this next shot, I've basically not moved from the spot. I've just had to kind of balance myself precariously on top of these rocks. And the reason for that is I need to raise myself up high enough to eliminate a few elements from crossing over in the foreground area back here. Now I'm right in on this shot. I'm not including the pier, I'm not including the boathouse, there's nothing of that. It's just including the spit of land there, and then the pine tree sitting on the island, and then beyond that the mountains. And obviously it's just waiting for the light, which we are getting a little bit of now. In fact, I'm just going to grab a shot of that now. And the reason is I'm going to have to double the shots up here again. I'm going to have to take a shot for the sky, and then I'm going to put the case filter on again, probably a 10-stop again, to smooth that water out. And it's a lot tighter in. I've tried it as a square crop and it doesn't quite work, because it crops out too much of that left side and it doesn't quite look the same. There's an element where that spit of land comes in there, and there's a bump on it, and it's mirrored beyond that with the ridge line behind it, and that's why I'm having to raise myself up so you can see that ridge line. If I show you on the back of here now, you'll see what I'm looking at. Now, if I just move position, because I think my camera has moved position somewhat from where I was, I just change it slightly. There we go. And if I go in a touch tighter, there we go. That's the scene I'm looking at there. So yeah, using that light beyond to add that depth and dimension to the image, and then slowing that water down, I think is a really, really nice effect. So again, just a case of waiting for those light. We are getting kind of light beams every now and then come through there, and that's kind of what I'm waiting for. So when that does happen, I'll get 2 of these shots, a faster shutter speed, the slower one, and then blend them in post. And this is that shot. So, had a little bit of dinner, and then we've come back out again, and we are starting to get bits of light coming through. Every now and then, now that this cloud's starting to break up a little bit, we're getting light to move through. And just behind me over this direction, you might be able to see an island. And when that light was breaking through, that island was lighting up all by itself. So it was almost like a spotlight effect right on that island. And I had a similar shot in Scotland near Glencoe. In fact, you can just see it happening now. You can see it starting to illuminate. Now what's nice about it is it's separated so nicely because the background is obviously in shadow. So that is kind of almost just illuminated and glowing. And that was really fantastic when it happened, but it's just so fleeting. It happens really, really quickly. Now, the one thing I really do want to do with it is I'm waiting for it to happen again so I can grab a shot. Number one, just for the island itself to get it nice, crisp and sharp. And then I'm going to do a longer exposure for the water to smooth that out again, just to give it a more calm feel, I guess. Just calm it all down, because as I say, the tops of this water is just that little bit rough, and it's quite distracting when you're trying to focus in on a subject like that. I think if I can make all this nice and smooth and then make that glow, I think it'll really work well. And I'm just doing a pano with this shot because it works well to eliminate most of the sky and just focus in on the island itself with that shadow in the background, making it really stand out. So I've managed to find this final shot, excuse the road noise behind you, and it's a real minimalist shot that I've found because the light's obviously fading. I don't think we're going to get any sort of evening light whatsoever. I've used these little grasses in the water down here, and what I'm actually doing, I'm not going to take you to the back of the camera because it's really, really simple. Basically what I've done, I've kind of centered it in a square crop. What I'm trying to do is include all the grass, so I'm not letting any of the ones that are coming out of the edges go off the edge of the frame. I'm trying to get it all into the frame there, and I'm overexposing it. And when I look through, I'm overexposing it by roughly one and a half stops, somewhere around there. And the reason for it is I'm not got a polarizer on, and I'm trying my best not to kind of look through the water. I want the water to kind of go white, almost completely white, so that it's not got any detail in the water. The main detail and the main focus is going to be on the grasses themselves. So by overexposing it, I'm getting that to happen. And it's so simple. There's nothing to it actually. Basically, what am I at here? I'm at roughly 13 seconds f16, ISO 100 and 1.5 stops overexposed. And yeah, I'm just going to grab this shot. Nice shot to kind of end the day on, nice and simple. And here it is. So I think that was pretty much the last shot of the day. As I said, you can see the light is fading now. I did grab one last shot down this direction, and I'm stood in the lake at the minute, and you can see these reeds and grasses off to my left here, running right the way down, and there was some lovely trees kind of hanging over into the lake there, and we had some nice light back here in the mountains in the distance, and it worked really, really well as a pano crop. So I took a quick shot of that while the light was still here, and I think that works well for a last image. Nothing particularly different from what I've been doing all day. Basically, I took an exposure for the water, slowed that down to take all the distracting elements off the surface and smooth it out, and then a second shot to basically make the clouds and everything stand out and keep that detail. So that was a faster shutter speed to freeze that motion. And then I'm just going to blend the two in post. So really, really simple. But this is the thing. we've had a real bad day as far as light's gone. We haven't had that much. There's been the odd glimpse every now and then, and it makes conditions really hard to photograph in when it's like that. But it's definitely worth persevering with, and don't give up with it, because there's always a shot to be had. Even with those grasses. Now, yes, it's maybe not the best image ever, but it's a shot nonetheless, and it works well because you don't really need the light. It's focused in on the actual details and textures of the grasses and then smoothing that water out. So I didn't really need directional light. It probably would have worked better with a bit of light on the grasses, but you've got to work with what you have. So it's always worth persevering. Anyway, guys, hope you've enjoyed this week's video. Like and subscribe if you have. Stay tuned for the next lot of videos, because I'm taking off up to Scotland to go and check out a few areas in Torridon, so that should be a really fantastic trip. Okay, guys, see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.